It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way.
When the National Guard hit the ground in Washington last week, that city's crime fight went into overdrive. And now we're seeing the impact and the dramatic reductions in crime. When the National Guard rolled into Washington last week, the locals seemed skeptical.
The crime is minimal here. There's not really a lot of crime here. It looks like window dressing to me.
But with the Guard on the ground, crime is on the decline. For the first time in a long time, D.C. has gone 7 days without a homicide.
So today we saw this Illinois Democrat delegation led by absolute rock stars and high IQ individuals like J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson hold this gigantic press conference screeching about the fact that Trump might be copying the D.C. playbook in Chicago, right? Essentially saying, no, Trump, how dare you send the feds in to clean up the city, crack down on crime, and make our places safer. This is authoritarianism. This is fascism. You know the typical deal. Now, it's worth noting that this is not even official. This is just simply idea that Trump has been floating, but never count out the Democrats to find any excuse to hold this screaming, angry press conference, getting mad at Donald Trump. And that is, of course, what you saw and we'll talk about here today. But you once again see Democrats backing themselves into the same exact corner that not just I, but MSNBC, Joe Scarborough, even people on the left have been warning them about, which is to say that, hey, Democrats, it's not exactly a winning political position to defend crime, to defend the criminals, to tell people who are living in crime-ravaged areas that crime is down. It's actually at 30-year lows. You are perfectly safe. But that is, of course, once again, what you see. And you're also seeing a little pattern in left-wing thought that I thought kind of dissipated after 2020, but you can tell TDS does this to these people, especially out of Brandon Johnson, who is basically laying out the Democrat approach to crime, right? Because common sense obviously should state that, well, the best way to keep a city safe is to invest in police, to make sure there are strong punishments for crime, to make sure there's higher security so that criminals can't commit crime, right? It's called deterrence. But according to the Democrats, none of these things are true, right? More police doesn't make us safe. Punishments for criminals doesn't make us safe. No, what we really need, guys, is social justice. Don't you know if we just invested more in education and defunded and abolished the police and all sung kumbaya, all of our streets would be safe, despite the fact that everywhere you've seen this tried since the 2020 Marxist revolution that took place in this country, that has never worked. But here they go once again, basically saying, oh, just fund more to the teachers' unions and send a social worker. And magically, guys, this apparently is what they think is going to fix the city. And somehow these people believe, as they sit at a pathetic approval rating and many other internal problems in their party, you know, this is how we message to Americans. They're really going to believe us. They're really going to be down with the fact that indeed, we should not prosecute criminals. So we'll tell you all about this Chicago back and forth between the Trump administration, Pritzker, Johnson, and the Democrats in today's video. First, though, do us a favor, as usual. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, so they essentially, the Democrats here, rushed to panic after just 2 days ago when Trump was holding, I believe, the FIFA World Cup president in the White House. He kind of makes this offhand comment about how, look, what we were doing in DC is extremely successful. Right, they've not seen a murder in 12 days, and Democrats apparently think this is a bad thing. And he lists out that, hey, this is something that maybe you could see come to other cities, maybe Chicago, and ever since the Democrats in the area have been in full-blown panic mode. But first, take a listen to what Trump said.
Anywhere on earth. So, you know, I really am honored that the National Guard has done such an incredible job working with the police. And we haven't had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do. We have to. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one, but they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York.
So in the days since, you have basically seen the DC Chronicle play out all over again, where national Democrats try to say that Trump is an authoritarian, he's doing a fascist military takeover of our streets, and he's responding to a fake problem, right? Crime is not real. Don't you know crime is at 30-year lows? And Chicago is like the safest place on earth, right? Chirac never even heard of that. It's so amazing. Look at these manipulated crime statistics that are not even reported to the FBI. Don't you know nothing is really happening? Except in reality, that's not the case. And just like you saw out of DC, what happens as these Democrats, as the media does all this fear-mongering and panic, on the ground, many Chicago residents are saying the same thing that the DC residents were saying, which is, first of all, no, crime is very real. It's out of control. It's a massive problem. And they're actively begging the Trump administration to come in and clean up the city, because it turns out many urban residents nationwide are envious of DC right now, because they too would like the proposition of being able to live in safety, not constantly fear for their lives or their property. Yeah, guess what? It's a basic human instinct to want to be safe. So, take a look.
The National Guard has to come here, even if it's for a scare tactic. They have to come here. There's no control. There's no law and order.
And by the way, before Democrats once again try to argue that, don't you know, crime is down, the numbers do not agree. So far this year, 1,000 people have been shot in the city of Chicago. Broken down, that is 123 per month, 28 per week, or 4.1 per day. 4.1 shootings on average per day in that city. And by the way, even the folks over at NBC are noting that, yeah, actually, despite Democrat rhetoric, crime in Chicago is indeed a massive problem. And the stereotype about that city comes from a real place, which is that indeed the problem itself is real.
So far this year, the city is still averaging over 1 killing a day. Just this weekend, there were 3 homicides and 27 people were shot.
We still have a problem. We have a problem with illegal guns. We have a high murder rate. We need help with that.
Right, but what is the Democrat response? It's like Leslie Nielsen, and what is that movie from the 80s? Naked Gun, I think. Nothing to see here. Everything is fine, right? That's exactly the situation. Because as I said today, in response to the idea that Trump, that evil, horrible fascist, might come into our city and make life better for the residents. What an evil thing to do. He might come and stop crime. Don't you know we need crime, guys? That's a really good thing, according to Democrat and their party, right? You have the comments of Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who, as Trump lays out, yes, is not exactly a very competent or high IQ person. But listen to his argument in response to Trump and the right wing on this, because, again, the BLM talking points, it's very clear here, never went anywhere when it comes to city governance. And, well, I'll just show you what I'm talking about. So, whereas you have Trump's solution to crime, which, by the way, has worked in DC, it's called deter the criminals. It's called have strict law and order. It's called have more law enforcement. Let's hear out the Brandon Johnson and Democrat solution to clean up our cities, despite the fact that right now they're running our cities and it's not working. But nonetheless, they're going to double down. So check it out.
As the mayor of this city, I can tell you that Chicagoans are not calling for a military occupation. They are calling for the same thing that we've been calling for some time, and that's investment. What safe cities across America all have in common, they invest in people, and that's what we're doing in Chicago. We need the federal resources to make sure that we're building more affordable housing, expanding mental and behavioral health care, education, all of these things that could reduce crime and provide real community safety. Instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars for a publicity stunt to invoke chaos and terror, the federal government should spend that money on proven solutions to crime and violence reduction. We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down. We cannot return to the same failed strategies that got us here in the first place. Under the previous presidential administration, we requested more federal resources to address gun violence in our city. We continue to make that same call. We have made significant progress on our own, but there is so much more that we can do if we had real support from the federal government.
It's racist, guys. It is racist and immoral to want to throw criminals in jail and keep the streets safe. Don't you know the way that you fight crime is by investing more in Section 8 affordable public housing and more money in the school districts? If we only had that, guys, if we only had more education, there would not be crime on our streets. We could just abolish the police, quite literally. And, that's all the problem is in the world. It's not human greed, human violence, or whatever. It's not the fact that there's just a subset of people in the population who will take advantage of and manipulate and go after others. No. Don't you believe the blank slate? If we just gave every child an amazing education, everything would be fine. Of course, this is the very premise of left-wing thinking that I would like to point out, contrary to Brandon Johnson's beliefs that it has been proven to work. No, it's actually been proven not to work, because in America, in this country, post-2020, we reversed a long decades trend of decreasing crime in America. Because why? Because suddenly New York decided that we want to abolish cash bail because it's inequitable. Right? Los Angeles says we don't want to ruin people's lives over petty crimes, so we're going to make theft and shoplifting under $900 legal, right? Many states basically said, minor crimes, we're going to let them out of jail. And what happens? Repeatedly, you get repeat offenders, you get massive problems. You get problems, by the way, like the very city of Chicago. Because guess what? Newsflash, guys. No matter how much you invest in education, and Democrat cities do this a lot, okay? The Chicago area school districts are top 10 in the country for most funded. Baltimore, I believe, infamously is number 1, and we'll look at how their city is doing. No amount of money can, first of all, force certain kids, force them to pay attention in class if they don't want to. Secondly, no amount, again, this blank slate theory that you're never going to have bad people if we just treated them right and gave them the right resources. No. The simple reality is that there are always going to be people in our society who take advantage of others, who commit crimes, who do these things. And the only really human thing they can respond to is force and deterrence, right? It needs to be clearly made that, hey, crime is not tolerated. If you are tough on crime, you're going to see less crime. And of course, he brings up this argument about the over-incarceration, right? This is something that people so often say, the 1990s approach of throwing criminals in jail didn't work. But I'd like to point out it actually did work, first of all, okay? Rudy Giuliani's mayorship, and by the way, Michael Bloomberg even after him, in the 1990s and early 2000s, drastically brought down crime in New York City. Why is that? Was that because they invested more money in education? No, maybe they did, but who knows? But the immediate reason they brought down crime is because they started implementing, guess what? Tough on crime policies. The 1992 crime bill, despite all of its controversy and its long-standing reputation today of being racist or something, if you look at the math, drastically over the next decade where it was implemented, reduced crime in the United States. This problem has only come back because we went on this revisionist history tour where suddenly those policies are cruel and bad and racist, like Brandon Johnson is pointing out here, that things went in the other direction. And guys, it is pretty basic common sense. It's an incentive structure, right? When you're soft on crime, when you not create an adequate deterrence for it, if you arguably create an incentive for something, you're going to get more of it. If you are tough on crime, if you de-incentivize something, you are going to get less of it. This has nothing to do with how much we're investing in housing or education. This has everything to do with the fact that in the immediate moment, by the way, because heck, even if you invest in education, how long is that going to take to see a difference potentially in your theory of the crime rate? 10, 20 years? Because guess what? You're going to have a whole new generation go through the school system in order to see this reported change. Same situation even with public housing or affordable housing, which I really don't get that argument at all. because last I checked, areas with a lot of Section 8 housing, the projects, for instance, are not exactly known to be low crime areas, despite the fact that people there are living in so-called affordable housing, living for free. So this is all to say that not only is the Democrat philosophy, the 2020 BLM talking points here, not only are they completely debunked. Again, just look at America the past 4 to 5 years when major cities have tried these things and ask yourself if it's really made us safer. Not only that, but it goes against very basic, rudimentary human common sense that, hey, if you want to stop crime, you need to stop criminals, right? All this elaborate, like, oh, if you invest in education and you do community policing and you send a social worker to talk someone out of it and blah, 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 blah. See, this all is like complicated bullcrap that's very philosophical, very academic, and it doesn't actually work in the real world. Whereas the right-wing approach is very simple. Hey, police, stop the crime. Police, stop the criminal, arrest the criminal. Right? It's the oldest tactic in human history that has always worked, and these people just argue so extensively against reality. So I know I'm on a little bit of a tangent here, but I just want to break down once again how ridiculous the liberal philosophy on this crime issue actually is, and reiterate that, yes, these are the very type of stupid ideas that have, of course, guided major cities since 2020 and BLM, and that's exactly why we're in the position we are now. So far from saying that he's been proven right, no, indeed, he's been disproven on this very issue. But hey, take that nationwide, Democrats. Please do. Run in 2026 on the idea that prosecuting criminals is racist. We need to be letting all the criminals out of jail. We just need to be investing in more education. That's going to fix everything. We've only been saying that for 50, 60 years now, right? And we'll see how that works for you. No, actually, America has an under-incarceration problem, frankly. That's the truth of it. But anyways, moving on here, you, of course, also saw Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker make an appearance here today, also discussing how he's not going to tolerate the president, the evil president, coming in and cleaning up our city. And there's a pretty hilarious moment here on camera when he says the following, quote, "I live rent-free in the president's head. I wish he would spend some time in Chicago so he can see what a lovely city we have." So he says that, right? Trump's obsessed with me. I'm living rent-free in his head. And then as you'll see, the reporter's camera pans here to show that J.B. Pritzker, while claiming Trump is obsessed with him, is actually standing outside of Trump Tower in Chicago. Hysterical. Check it out.
We're very pleased about the progress that we're making. I know that I live rent-free in the president's head, and I wish he would spend some time in Chicago so that he could see what a lovely city we have.
Governor, quick follow-up. What do you do if the National Guard is activated and comes here?
Yeah, so who is really obsessed with the other person? I think the answer there is obvious. But moving on, let us now listen in to the comments of J.B. Pritzker at the press conference today, where they're saying, please do not make our city safer. Because similar to Brandon Johnson, you're about to hear a lot of stupidity. So take a listen.
To tell the president that his proposed actions will make our jobs harder and the lives of our residents worse. Earlier today in the Oval Office, Donald Trump looked at the assembled cameras and asked for me personally to say, "Mr. President, can you do us the honor of protecting our city?" Instead, I say, "Mr. President, do not come to Chicago." You are neither wanted here nor needed here. Your remarks about this effort over the last several weeks have betrayed a continuing slip in your mental faculties and are not fit for the auspicious office that you occupy. Most alarming, you seem to lack any appropriate concern as our commander-in-chief for the members of the military that you would so callously deploy as pawns in your ever more alarming grabs for power. As a governor, I've had to make the decision in the past to call up members of the National Guard into active service. And I think it's worth taking a moment to reflect on how seriously I take that responsibility and on the many things that I consider before asking these brave men and women to leave their homes and their communities to serve in any capacity for us. As I've said many times in the past, members of the National Guard are not trained to serve as law enforcement. They are trained for the battlefield, and they're good at it. They're not trained to arrest people and read them their Miranda rights.
It doesn't even make any sense. First of all, National Guard are trained for, the reason they're National Guard particularly is because they can do certain forms of civil works, civil control, crowd control, right? They're oftentimes deployed to deal with rioting and all that stuff. So that's just utterly ridiculous. But then secondly, you say, oh, I'm so concerned for the National Guard members. It's cruel to them, apparently, to send them to Chicago to clean up the crime. But I asked the question, how could that be cruel? Because I thought Chicago was doing amazing. I thought it was this perfectly safe city. It's like a paradise. It's the best place on earth. It's totally safe. So why would these National Guard members not enjoy a nice trip to the most amazing place ever? You know, I would enjoy that, right? Hey, you get to deploy, guys. think of being in the National Guard or military. And the brass tells you, guys, you get to deploy to the safest, according to JB Pritzker, right? To the safest place in the world where there is zero violence going on, zero risk to your life, supposedly. Would you like this? Everyone's gonna, oh wow, you know, that's so amazing. No one's gonna be arguing that's cruel. That's like the best place you could send the military, allegedly. But anyways, there you essentially have it, right? Again, how dare he try to crack down on crime instead of investing in the education or something? As if, by the way, you can even invest in education and ensure that is better and give more people more opportunities in life without having safe neighborhoods. I'd just like to add that point, by the way. You know, this argument about, oh, you know, if we create more opportunities like affordable housing, education, they can go work these jobs. Yeah, how do you expect businesses to come in and invest in a area or good teachers to want to come and work in a school or something if you do not have the basic rudimentary human need of safety? You know, that like pyramid of self-actualization from psychology or whatever, right? The most basic human needs, you know, food, water, shelter, safety. Okay, you kind of have to start with those before you want to build anything else to like better education or self-fulfillment or any of these things. So as usual, you can see here, and Democrats seem to start from the top of the pyramid instead of the bottom. As usual, what I'm saying here is you can just see Democrats completely out of touch with, forget the American public's opinion, although they're wrong on this, the Democrats being there. They're just out of touch with human nature. Like what they're saying on a basic ding-dong caveman level doesn't even make sense. And well, essentially, guys, there you have it. So with that in mind, you will also see here the response from President Trump to Illinois Governor JB Pritzker. And well, it speaks for itself. Check it out.
You really want to be asked to go? You know, I hate to barge in on a city and then be treated horribly by corrupt politicians and bad politicians like a guy like Pritzker. He ought to spend more time in the gym, actually. This guy is a disaster. Gavin Newsom's a disaster. When we went, we saved Los Angeles. You wouldn't have been able to have the Olympics in Los Angeles. You're barely able to have it now. They did lose 25,000 houses to a fire that should have never occurred, because they didn't let the water come down from the Pacific Northwest, which you guys don't want to write about.
I mean, hey, he's not wrong, right? How about instead of investing in the city's education, you invest in yourself. You invest in your own personal development, JB. But anyways, guys, there you essentially have it. With that said, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Do you think Trump should simply override the city and state government to clean it up anyway? Considering these are American cities, these are the pride jewels of our civilization, we ought to do what should be done. Do you hope maybe that, I don't know, this creates pressure on Brandon Johnson and Pritzker to actually take the issue of crime seriously? And most of all, what do you think of the claim that, you know, all these crimes are happening because we just don't fund education enough, guys? Don't you know? Even though we already do, right? All right, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.